I'm so excited to introduce Rachael Miller and Kier Foley. Right, Rachael Miller is the co-founder of the Rozalia Project for a Clean Ocean. We met a long time ago at my high school. We're actually both alums to the same place. And she just instantly, I don't think she knows this, but she instantly inspired me. And it was right before I got this job at NESS. And I was like, I'm not ready to give up teaching. I'm not ready to give up being on the water. She really helped catalyze that decision for me to continue to search for a different opportunity. And a year later, I was here. So that's a secret shout out to you, Rachael. Thank you for that inspiration. But she's an expedition scientist, inventor, National Geographic explorer, Explorers Club fellow, and co-inventor of the Cora Ball. She, which is the world's first microfiber catching laundry ball. She leads expeditions whose scientific research is published in peer-reviewed journals and education programs that leads thousands and inspires thousands of people of all ages. Right? She's spoken for TEDx at the Explorers Club. She captains a 60-foot sailing research vessel titled the American Promise, certified hundreds of people to be sailing instructors, trained Navy SEALs to find unexploded mines using underwater robots, which is wild, and just so much more. And so I could go on and on about Rachael, but I'm so excited to have her here. And so Kier, who comes from the Educational Passages organization, she's an Educator Liaison. We work with her to run the Recycle Regatta every year if you've participated in the past, and you will hear more about that. She is an incredibly passionate educator. She teaches high school science with a deep-seated love for oceanography and all things related to boats and marine life. She's beyond dedicated to her kids. She's a private tutor to help students with certain needs to be able to meet their educational needs, excuse me. She's also a mother to two. So she's an explorer and also has a couple, or I shouldn't say a couple, a lot of great things to share with you today too. So without further ado, I'm gonna start off with Rachael. You are a co-host. I'll make you our spotlight and we can get right to it.
Great, thank you. And hello everyone. And that is incredible, Hannah. Thank you for sharing that. You know, for people who do a fair amount of public speaking, to hear something like that is equally back at you inspiring. So that's awesome. Was it at the cum laude talk?
Yeah.
February? Yeah, awesome. That's amazing. So thank you for having me here. It's cool to be able to like be in service to you and this amazing program. So I'm going to jump right into it because we have a lot of awesomeness about to happen, and jump right in with some description about our organization, Rozalia Project. So you understand the we of whom I speak and our work and how it might be able to support the work of the attendees of this great event. So Rozalia Project is a nonprofit. We're based in Vermont for most of the year. We do work here in Vermont, but we also have 3 months or more in the Gulf of Maine, or really let's call it Manhattan to Bar Harbor, and we're getting a little farther afield in both directions. And our mission is to protect the ocean and the lakes and rivers that feed her, and conserve a healthy, thriving marine ecosystem. And we do that by working on the problem of marine debris. We've spent a tiny bit of time working on marine protected areas and a little bit on protecting forage fish, but for the most part, this is our focus problem. And we use 4 strategies. They are data cleanups so that we understand the problem while making an area better. But then the rest is all about prevention. Prevention through education, embracing innovation and technology, and doing solutions-based research. We work from the surface to the sea floor. So the shoreline is obviously our most accessible place to operate, and we do that too. But because we're on a vessel, which I'll get to in a second, we're working on the surface. And I'd like to introduce you to our ROV, a remotely operated vehicle. This is Hector the Collector. That's our ROV. You can see he's got a little grabber down there. And so it's a way to connect people to the underwater world right at their feet. And we've actually done that off the dock at NESS. This is one of my favorite photographs from Rozalia Project ever. We call it ROV face. And this is the face of people seeing underwater in real time, right there, the water under their feet for the first time. And honestly, we're in Jamaica Pond here, and we had just come across some bicycles sat on the bottom of Jamaica Pond. So very unusual marine debris as well. We work on urban, inland, and coastal waters. This is very deliberate. We are not out working in our ocean's gyres, though it's important that we know what's going on out there. And that is because we recognize that the vast majority of the marine debris that is causing the problem is coming from the land-sea interface, and that's where we believe the most cost-effective solutions will come as well. And then we thrive on great partnerships with everyone from organizations like NESS to funding partners, bigger organizations like US Sailing, to local partners and universities as well. We are optimistic in the face of an overwhelming problem. We're optimistic because we recognize that the collective we made this. Let's face it, it's clear this is human made. There isn't anyone who really is like a marine debris denier. However, we believe the collective we can fix the problem. Now, getting to the boat. So I know that Kier knows who this is, but you guys will be looking at a really happy guy. And this is Dodge Morgan. He is that happy because he just broke the solo nonstop sailing circumnavigation record, which means he sailed around the world alone without stopping faster than anyone had ever done it before, which is pretty amazing. He was from Maine, and he had this boat built in Marblehead, Massachusetts to achieve that goal. She is ours. We're the third owner. He donated her the Naval Academy, and we're working to keep her in front as the greenest sailing research vessel, oceanographic research vessel in the world. There's a whole nother presentation, but we have solar, wind, and hydro. We spent 8 years without ever turning on the generator or plugging into shore power for house bank needs, which was pretty cool. And now we're working on a lithium ion battery situation that we're still dialing. So it sort of broke our record a little bit, but we'll be back. Eye candy. Just a moment for everybody of sailing, eye candy. She's such a beautiful, well-balanced boat, even with really, really, really old sails. Here we are lining up our teachers and scientists and volunteers on the boat as if we're racing along the coast of Massachusetts. So I can't not show that. Now with Rozalia Project, we are a solutions-oriented organization, and we have this sort of ongoing flow chart about how we, how we get to those solutions. And our specialty is in the first level of understanding the problem, not the lab side, but the field side. So we do field science. And then in the solutions, we are primarily working in education awareness and innovation and redesign. And Hannah mentioned our biggest contribution on the innovation side. It's the Cora Ball. I don't know if people have heard of it already. Maybe some of you have some, which is great. The short version is that you put it in your washing machine, and it both helps reduce shedding, keeps your clothes from falling apart, and also helps collect some of what does shed before it can go out the drain. I have lots of resources for understanding that problem, but I want to share more of our education-specific ones in this talk. So I'll finish with a little last bit of Rozalia Project definition, and that is we work on 3 primary problems within the marine debris big picture, and they are derelict fishing gear, consumer debris, and microplastic. Now, on the derelict fishing gear side, and some of the highlights of our work, that is working in Maine. Nearly all of what we do in the Gulf of Maine, which takes up most of our summers and 90% of our work on American Promise, is working with derelict fishing gear. This was this summer on Hart Island, and it's kind of all there in this picture. The traps you can see to one of our volunteer, Marcy's, like her right, our left. You can see some other trap pieces, buoys, and fishing line. Our work in the Gulf of Maine has been really rewarding, and we are still at it in full effect. We're part of a coalition for the next 3 years, cleaning up remote islands, just like that one that you just saw. This is bringing back bags of foam after a dock exploded on Squirrel Island near Booth Bay. And if anyone's interested in that, we'd be happy to talk to you. Some other highlights about Rozalia Project's work, skip over to the microplastic side. And that is understanding more about the problem of microplastic and specifically microfiber pollution by twice sampling the Hudson River from the mountains to the sea. Once just the surface, and the other time sampling air, water, and soil. I am right now pulling down an air pump from the mast, and I swear that's not posed. Me and the Statue of Liberty, that just happened. We did it twice, which was amazing. And again, I've got lots of info on that. More recent highlights include, for me, getting to go do some of our work further afield. And this is like mind-blowing that I just rolled my Cora ball on my keyboard there. Mind-blowing in that I got to go on Dr. Robert Ballard's Nautilus in Hawaii to do our work with microplastic and microfiber pollution, which meant taking our water samples with some pretty dramatic backdrops. We had an international crew, and it was amazing. More recently, some highlights also related to National Geographic have been to be a visiting scientist on board a Lindblad expedition ship. So a very, very small 130-person max expedition ship. We were just in the Arctic. We got as far as 81 degrees north, which for me is sort of incredible. And in 10 days, we'll be going to the Southern Ocean to do the same sampling work and understand the problem in the Falkland Islands, South Georgia, and Antarctica. We're doing that work in both the air and the water. This is in the Arctic, so we can get a better understanding of, we already know that microplastic is everywhere, but we really want to know what it is so that we know to go after, say, having more resilient clothing. I have a lot to say about that, but what I want to really spend my time on today is sharing resources for informal, formal educators and people who are spreading the word about how important protecting our ocean is, and who are particularly interested in this very ubiquitous problem of marine debris, both macro and micro. So one of the programs that we do is our marine debris workshop that we call it kind of internally. And it's about starting with a cleanup, but then going beyond a cleanup. And my guess is everyone here has already done this. I know that you're using our data cards for some of your lesson plans already. And the way I think of this is doing a cleanup is important, but doing a data cleanup is what's going to help us solve the problem. And it doesn't really matter how old people are. The data side really increases impact. So of course we do a cleanup and then we dump it all back out, put everything into piles, record what we find. Here is an example of our data card that's online, and I will finish this up and put in the chat a whole list of links. So the data card helps people understand what was there and how much of it. We also use the marine debris tracker. Our data cards are on here, and there's lots of options to use the marine debris tracker. I have a link to that at the end as well. It's an excellent, excellent tool. So going beyond just these cleanups for us means next step is thinking about how did this stuff get there and what's it going to take to keep it from happening again. And for us, that includes behavior change. So we do these behavior change games that bring up what causes behavior change in people, what inspires people to change the way they do what they do. Then we group people together and thinking about what part of the problem screams at them. The reason we invented the Cora ball is because the problem of microfiber pollution screamed at us, and we knew we had to do a bunch of things. Well, 3, we needed to contribute knowledge about the problem because there wasn't much at the time. We needed to come up with a solution, and we needed to spread the word so people in the zillions of industries in which we have no expertise could come up with their solutions. And so we travel on American Promise with these amazing volunteers who are teachers, who are scientists, But that's not it. This guy, this Manu, he worked at a startup. And so he shared what it takes to go from an idea to reality. And we share our own experience about the Korabal doing that. We group participants by their interest. So we're not forcing someone to work on straws if they're not interested. We, again, share our experience with bringing the Korabal into the world. And that means bringing some of the earlier prototypes of the Korabal to the sessions. And then we know how important it is that people who have ideas come up with ideas, whether that's scientific or, say, innovation, are able to communicate about them. And so we ask each group to do a mini pitch, non-competitive, but a mini pitch that explains what problem they're trying to solve, why that's important, what their idea is, why their idea is awesome, and what they need to make it successful. And they're not allowed to say money because that's sort of a given. We want people to think about, do they need volunteers? Do they need community buy-in? Do they need expertise? But to think a little bit beyond just the money. We've traveled with our 3D printer. So when people come up with ideas that are physical, we can make a model of them for them right away. So that little turtle right there is Dwayne, the sustainability turtle, who is going to be the mascot for a messaging program, a campaign. And this guy, this student, his name's Tiger, he invented in a very short amount of time a very clever thing, which is a flip up cover for fishing boat, lobster boat scuppers, so that it can be flipped up and it's still safe when things are rough, but it could flip down and the holes would be big enough to let water through, but not let 5-hour energy drinks out the back of lobster boats, because that was the thing that screamed at him. So we try when we have time and try to prioritize finishing up our workshops with an opportunity for what National Geographic calls science telling. And that is for the participants to even go beyond just a pitch, but to do a PSA and to really explain what they've learned and what, again, screams at them. Another part of our education program is one that does specifically focus on microplastics. And we have some games that some of you may have already seen, like this one, which is you put bits of plastic, pretty big bits, but still in the microplastic world, into a tray of rice, and then have students use tools and objects that mimic what sea creatures have to use to eat in order to demonstrate how hard it is if your eating mechanism is similar to a comb or, say, baleen, that you're really sucking in the rice and the plastic. And it's a great, very great hands-on. And we also do our favorite thing, a kind of a rowdy summer bikini science. This is visiting places like NESS, or this is a yacht club in Connecticut, Sachem Head, and running a microfiber activity. It's not just girls, the boys are doing it too. It just happened to be separate on this one day. And this is available for everyone. It's free. We have lesson plans and data cards, and I'll have the link for you. It's a really engaging, well-tested activity that investigates what makes, how shedding happens and what variables can increase or decrease shedding in a washing machine, using mason jars as the stand-in washing machine. It's quite fun, I have to say. Some of the organizations with whom we work are all over the place. And the main program that we're doing with the following group of organizations is called CSI for the Ocean. And it is a global citizen science microplastic mapping and monitoring program. We are still working on the formal pieces, the formal lesson plans and everything, but we have stuff ready. If anyone's interested, this is a little bit more intensive, but we've designed it to be accessible and affordable. We're working with Norrie Point on the Hudson River. We had a colleague from National Geographic run this program at, like, there was 110 degrees this summer in Texas, but they did it. The kids even made posters in like a 3-day program. It was amazing. And we're also running this with adults. It's exactly what we're doing on the Lindblad National Geographic expedition ships. So I'm going to leave you with a little guessing game for you guys. You can write it up in the chat what your guesses are. So warm up your fingers. And the point of this is to know that every effort that people make matters, that lots of littles make a big. So how many bits of 1 millimeter microplastic, that's kind of big, like pinhead size, do you think a standard size water bottle ends up if you let it just become microplastic in the ocean or Lake Champlain? Type in some answers. What do you think? I can see the chat. That is too much. I appreciate could probably end up 300,000, but these are bigger pieces for this one. So I'm going to give it to you. Oops, I think I have to get it. There we go. It's 39,000. That's a lot. So you can think about not using one of those or keeping it from getting in the ocean is actually doing a lot of good. All right. Now, how about a plastic bag? So this is a plastic grocery bag. And not quite, but I will say it is more than the 300,000 you guessed. It's not 1 million. It's a little bit less. And your plastic grocery bag, actually, because of surface area, ends up, oh, good guess, Hannah. It's a lot. And so our point to, you already know this, but a way to pass it on is something we believe. Lots of littles make a big. Lots of little students can make a big impact. Lots of little microplastics make a mess. And lots of little efforts make an impact. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I will share the links and hand it over to Kier, and be ready to talk to everyone again at the end with questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. Hi, everybody. Let me get my screen going here. I am Kier Foley, and I am the Educator Liaison, as Hannah mentioned, for Educational Passages. There, how's my screen? Can everybody see it?
You're great.
Great, awesome. Thank you, Hannah. Okay, so Educational Passages,
Sorry,
we
Kier,
are.
I think you moved it right after I said that.
Oh no.
I was a witness crew. Kier did practice all of this right before you logged on.
Better now?
Yep, I can see it right there.
Okay. I was trying to come off of the double monitor thing. So sorry, everybody, I'll be turned away from you for this. Okay. So, Educational Passages, we are the mini boat people. So if you think about an old timey message in a bottle, we kind of are the updated version of that, where we have mini boats that you'll get familiar with them, but just so you can get kind of a general picture, they're about the size of a table, 1.5 meters long. And we put sensors in them, GPS sensors, so we can track where they go and learn what's going on out there. So that is a picture of a mini boat right there on the right side. And outline for today, I'm going to go over 4 things, kind of who we are, and our contact information. Scholastic, Lost at Sea, a quick little lesson plan, how you can track a mini boat, sort of using this free resource, tell you a story behind one of the tracks. Then I'll talk about Recycle Regatta, which NESS is one of our partners for. And then I'll talk about our signature product, Mini Boat in a Box. So our mission is to connect people around the world to the ocean and each other, inspiring ocean stewardship through unique global experiences. And it's cyclical, and we take it very, very seriously. The cycle starts with a mini boat because that is how we can get data, is from the movement of the mini boat itself. The mini boat gets built, then it's launched. We're able to learn what's going on. We're tracking, recovering, connecting, and then hopefully repairing and relaunching, so we're not creating marine debris. We have we kind of say that at the very beginning, when you get a mini boat, you never really know what your impact will have, even years later. I love this graphic. This is showing that we are really just one ocean with some basins. And we have boats that stop reporting. We never know if they're going to show up again. We have how many launches it might take to get a boat across an ocean basin and back again. You always wonder, some of them take many, many times. And you never really know where your boat will go. And in fact, my first boat is still out there right now. We're not sure where she is. So it's kind of fun. I'm waiting, I'm asking these questions myself. So yeah, our boats go lots of places and we get to connect lots of people in different places. This is our one of our more famous mini boats was Rye Riptides. She left Rye, New Hampshire in October 2020 and was at sea for 462 days. She sailed almost 1,400 kilometers, or sorry, 14,000 kilometers across the Atlantic Ocean and was found in Norway. It's a lot of fun. We were able to connect the kids who originally made her with the kids who found her, and they were able to do some meetings with one another. It was a great, great experience. From that, Scholastic made a lesson, and you can contact us directly for the full teacher pack, but up in the upper right-hand corner is the reading article that they wrote about this story. And this article they've got at 2 different reading levels. I'm also a reading tutor, so it's important to me to know the Lexile level. So we've got 2 different Lexile levels. We've got 3 worksheets that go with it. And one of them is hands-on, trying to figure out what is it that is going on with the ocean currents? Why does the water move like rivers inside of the ocean? So next, we have shared with NESS this worksheet that you see on the other side and the links on there that I'm going over tonight. Next up is for us to talk about how to track a mini boat. Mini boats have landed in over 30 countries. We've had 198 different mini boats launched with over 326 voyages right now going on. So they get reused quite a bit. Our landing rate is 75% and rising. It's rising because we're getting more, our technology is getting better. We're using solar power instead of batteries, and we're getting quite aggressive with when a boat comes to shore, starting to reach out to find them. It helps us to connect what's going on. So if you want to track a boat, you can go to the website I have here on the bottom right, educationalpassages.org events at sea tab. This is what our current at sea tab looks like. I did take the screenshot last Thursday. We haven't added any boats since last Thursday. This is right after Puffin Stuff. Our latest boat was added. So she's moved there. They're in slightly different places, but this is about the number that we have out there right now. And it's a little bit low because we just delivered mini boats to lots of new schools for the year, and they're getting ready to, they're in various stages of preparing them. I talked to some today who are hoping to get their boat out in the next 2 weeks. We're telling them all it's a race to see who will be 200. So that's where we are. Another free resource is our PAT tool. And our PAT tool is where you can take the individual tracks, so you can see what's going on with the mini boats that are following the currents, both wind and water, and you can overlay the actual track of the mini boat with wind data or wave data or current data or temperature data. You can change up the overlays. Personally, the satellite one works, I think, is the neatest one to have out. I think that's the most interesting bit of information for a base map. But I want to really tell you about sort of one of our newest ones was the TMSC Challenger. We had partnership with the URI Graduate School of Oceanography for this boat, and the students at the Thompson Middle School in Rhode Island made her. She has one of our new sensor packs. Our sensor packs have a solar panel that runs an air temperature and a water temperature sensor, so we're able to track what's going on at the sea surface interface. And we also have a camera. I have a picture later on to show you kind of a neat thing that we were able to get. the bottom right slide there, I don't know, Rachel, if you can notice, but at the ocean race, that's your booth kind of tucked in behind us. Yeah, we were neighbors there. And in the front is what TMSC Challenger looked like right before she went out. Sort of smack in the middle is all that's left being loaded into a surf bag. She landed and took quite a beating on some rocks in Nova Scotia and Cape Breton. I'd like to pop out of this for just a second and kind of show you the resource. This is, if you go to the boats page itself, all of our boats pages have this lovely accordion that has all of the major milestones for what's happening. So your students can get to know sort of a buddy boat, if you will. We add details as they come up. And I thought this is always cute, right? Opening up the hatch and seeing what's inside so you can get to know the people who launched it. And I'd like to just show you kind of a video so you get a sense of, I'm going to talk to you about the mini boat in a box, but I want you to get a sense of what it looks like to build it with students. So we'll play that. And so just a regular science classroom takes a little bit of finagling for space, but the students, these are middle school students, are using hands-on material to work on the mini boat, to put it together, to ballast the keel, attach the keel, name it, apply anti-fouling bottom paint, decorate it. They decide what the cargo will be to go inside. It's a great exercise in identity to figure out who you are and what you want to give out there to the world. They step the mast, attach the mast, and then they make predictions. We send to these huge masts, and here we are being launched off of the research vessel Endeavour into the Gulf Stream, which she followed up the coast of North America until she got caught in a series of storms. Hurricane Lee was a pretty big deal in my area of the world. And yeah, that was some peeks at the area where she landed. They had to hike 3 kilometers to find her. So quite a little journey to go find her. So that is a story of TMSC Challenger. So another way you can stay involved with the stories is through our podcast. There's a brand new one that was published late last night, and they get published, and then a couple days later I play catch up and make these podcast worksheets, which always have a map for students to map the different places that the mini boats are. We ask questions about whatever it is that happened. So it's a little bit of an adventure in your classroom, because you know the mini boats are going to do something. They're out there. They are doing something. You don't know what it's going to be, though. And we try to target the exciting things with the podcast. We try to keep them to be about 15 minutes so that they're, maybe a great warm up for you to do. Or if you have a bunch of students who were absent, the ones who weren't absent can be doing this. And, it's a cool way to stay on top of what's going on. That is a picture there of one of our overlays from our PAT tool. I thought it was kind of cool that you could see how, especially the mini boat that is sort of dead center, stays in that one temperature of water. It's avoiding leaving the current. It's very, very important that we know where those interfaces are. The third thing I want to show teachers is Recycle Regatta. We're partners with NESS. And in the Recycle Regatta, we encourage students to build a model sailboat out of recycled and repurposed materials. You get to talk a lot about what would you be able to use in order to do this. You can then race your boats in your classroom. Along the way, you're learning about engineering, mass sailing, buoyancy, and stewardship. And then we have a big contest where you can enter your designs, and the students get announced, and there's prizes. There's a toolkit right in the middle of the page there at recycleregatta.info. The dates for 2024 are up there. It's same for last year, if anybody did it last year. So again, I don't know if you were involved in getting that together. Thank you. Such a great project to do. And then last thing I'm going to talk about is mini boat in a box, which is one of the ways we have this cool picture. That's a picture of Bridal Tern riding on Lancer, one of our boats, mini boats that's crossed the Atlantic many, many times. And the students get to decide, you know, what they're going to see and make predictions about what they'll see. And it's always a shark. They're going to see a shark. Somehow mini boats are suddenly being attacked by sharks. I don't know. That's what middle schoolers think. But this one, this Tern took a rest and just hung out on Lancer. And it was interesting to watch how long we can, you know, once we knew there was something there, we took a couple extra pictures, and they were there for quite a while. But the mini boat in a box, literally it is a box that arrives and with everything you need to get started: boat parts, supplies, instructions. We send you binder as a teacher, binder for your classroom, custom web page, which I showed you for tracking. We help with launching and troubleshooting along the way. And I'm currently a physics teacher, so I could not have a picture of how you can use this to teach vectors down there in the bottom right, where we have currents and the tracking of the boat, and you can predict where it's going to go. I don't know. It's just so cool. It's real life. It's awesome. And so our mini boat program is aligned to the Common Core, both math and ELA. It's aligned to the next generation science standards, some ocean literacy principles and fundamental concepts. It also gives lots of skills and confidence building. And so lots of ways to join the adventure. We have our Be Wet toolkit, tracking. There's lots of ways to find us, all of our handles, Recycle Regatta, mini boat in a box. And finally, if you want to email me, that's me in the striped shirt in the middle, and Cassie Stymist, our executive director, on the right, in the hat and the sunglasses. And that was us doing some testing, because we always want to make sure the boat is as strong as possible. And again, I just come back to, I hope you join us somehow in our mission to connect people around the world to the ocean and each other. So that is it for me.
Thank you, Kier. That was so cool. Oh my gosh, I didn't even know about the podcast. I read it on the flyer when you sent it through, and I'm so excited to like start to dive into those. And what a great thing to add the worksheets to as well. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. We hope they get used a lot. They're a lot of fun.
All right, so we're going to open things up to Q&A. I have a couple questions already preloaded just to get the conversation flowing, but feel free to raise your hand emoji on the screen and I'll call on you, or type it in the chat. But I'm going to make these two our spotlights again, just so we can see everybody. And then if you raise your hand, I'll try to find you and put a spotlight on you as well. But my main thing is like, both of you guys, just to get us started, both of you guys do so much, right? Like Rachel, you're traveling the world. You're doing so much research. Kier, you're a teacher in 1,001 different ways. What catalyzed your passion? And you talked about this a little bit about like where you grew up and your experiences, but like if you could pinpoint like a memory or something that really catalyzed that moment where you're like, this is why I want to stay in this realm and not like tangentially move on to a whole nother passion of yours. What makes you want to share all this marine and nautical science with everyone, and whatever realm you do? Like, it's just amazing how many balls you guys can juggle to do all this.
Rachel, why don't you go first?
I am really clumsy on land. Like, it's not pretty. I am a water person through and through and through. Skiing, I consider a water sport, and I have been this way forever. As a baby, the only place I slept was like on a little day sailor my parents had, or near the water. And I've had a very consistent thing with water. I mean, running, my husband jokes I would be the first one eaten in the forest. Like, I really can't run to even literally save my life, I think. And so for me, it's everything. It's all the things that bring me joy and peace and everything. And so it's I've always been water oriented with all of my sports, as a competitive swimmer and a sailor growing up. And I always only did skiing really for myself, no competitive there. I did some teaching, but And then it just, I don't know. I started teaching at 13 years old, teaching sailing. And I think connecting people to the water has been an absolute consistent thread in my life, personally and professionally. And the only thing that's meandered a little bit is the method I've used to make that connection. So it's been sports for the majority, really human and wind powered sports. And most recently, it's been through conservation and science. And I think there's a place for all of it. How about you, Kier? And just, I love learning about all of your work with the mini boats. It's so amazing. I'm like, I want to throw them off of all of the ships that I go on.
Oh, we need a launcher. We need launchers. So fantastic.
We'll talk.
Absolutely. For me, it very similar, just a complete love through and through for the ocean. I live on a boat when I can. And I just have followed the opportunities that have felt right and gone through the doors that opened that felt like they were the right door to go through. And, when my students ask me, what do I do? And I'm like, well, I am really busy, but I get to be a special ed teacher. I get to be a scientist. I get to be a teacher. I get to be all of these things. And so I like all of the little pieces, and I just keep following the opportunities. And I taught for a while in a place that wasn't near the ocean, and in northern Maine. And I would always ask my kids, is anybody here not seen the ocean, and was just shocked how many kids lived in Maine who hadn't even seen it. And I'm like, wow, it was just amazing to me that not everybody had seen it. And so that kind of embedded, that kind of jump started my need to articulate it a little bit more, to have to explain what it's like what is a tide, to people and who have never seen one. Yeah, I guess just following the opportunities that felt right. No one thing, just that snowball. Things you love turn into something huge, I guess, over time.
Yeah, that's actually really great, Kier. I got to write that down somewhere. So things you love snowball, turned into really great things. Holy moly. So moving on, let's focus on students now. You just kind of talked a little bit about working in Maine and seeing that in your students. Like Nina and I down here, sometimes that's the point I took this job, is to reach students who might live near the water but don't have access to it or don't have the resources. And so when you guys have an interaction with students, right, that maybe it's a one-off program, we'll pretend, you get to see them for an hour, or educators, what do you want them to walk away with for your students? I still want to keep it student-centered. What do you want your youth, right, to be able to walk away with, excited about, and ready to share? And how do you do that?
I liked, honestly, I liked Rachel's eye candy when you showed the boat, when you showed that sailing. It's that for me, I want to give them an experience that just embeds deeply enough in them that they want to take action. And I think it needs to be, hands-on. It needs to be, and if it can't be hands-on, it needs to be authentic needs to be an authentic actual experience. And it just carries through. Rachel, about you?
I think for me, I am a fan of weaving as many senses. So exactly the same thing. If we can make something hands-on, we will. If that's what the ROV did, and that's what we spent our first bunch of years doing, is using the ROV to connect people. And we too worked with an incredible number of kids who were from cities. We were in Annapolis, Maryland once, with a classroom of kids who really didn't understand what Chesapeake Bay was, that it was connected to the ocean, just a very big disconnect. And with kids in Providence who had never gone down to the river and things like that. And so we wanted to do it in a way that was so special that it would be memorable. And also for it to be multi or interdisciplinary. I'm also a big fan of interdisciplinarity as much as is possible, so that when there is a classroom of kids or a group of any humans and you don't get them for very long, for me, that opportunity to appeal to the artist, to appeal to the math wizards, to appeal to the physicists, the ones who want to go into physics, to ones who are just like, oh, words. And that, like, we have an opportunity to connect with people, whether it's because they're into the robot or they're into like the suspense of just like this yellow thing into the water, you don't know what's going to happen, or they're into the video screen and the sonar or whatever it is. And we're trying to do that too with this, the cleanup workshop with the sorting. It's cleanup, it's sorting, it's counting. There's a lot of opportunities to get in there.
Lots of different ways to learn and ways to get that message in. I love that. That's great.
Right. And what I'm hearing from both of you is you inherently are teaching experientially, and that's going to grow that social emotional growth in the students, but also, like Rachel, you just listed 1,001 things to reach your students where they're at, which is what NESS is all about. And that's how you make an impact too. You guys are doing such great work. And Kier, you too. I mean, this is just so exciting to have both of you here. I'm still kind of in awe, and we're almost done. Oh my gosh, I got to get it together. I'm going to pivot a little bit. If you guys are looking forward, like let's look forward into your next year. What are you most excited about for 2024? I mean, I don't want to say we're wrapping up this year yet either, but in the next 12 months, what's on your list that you're just amped to be able to do or share?
You ready, Kier, with this one?
I'm back in the classroom, and I get to be with this group of kids, and it's only 10 of them, and we get to be together, and I get to have all year to integrate this. I think that's cool. I think being able to weave what I know now from being at Educational Passages for a long time, and yeah, I'm just excited to be in the classroom and to be able to share what I've seen.
Awesome. And that's so important. You have these kids for the year and you get to follow through. And what's interesting is I am now kind of starting to do like work at the complete other end of the spectrum, which is, for me, what I'm really excited about is like live broadcasts from ships far away and doing more communication to people globally. Admittedly, these will be short hits. In fact, we just spent today doing some like planning for 5-minute live video segments from a ship. So it's the opposite end, but I think we need to address this from the kids all year to thousands of people at once if we can figure out how to do that. So for me, I'm really excited to do that. I've been kind of living in the middle for a while of occasionally reaching classes or giving a presentation maybe to like 1,000 people or that kind of thing, which is amazing. But now having some opportunities to go even bigger is really exciting for me. And another thing that I want to be very specific about is we are working with National Geographic to come out with some more lesson plans in the microfiber side of things. So we have more than just a lesson plan. We're building a little bit of a curriculum, or at least a group of activities. And I'm excited to have such awesome help to get that out, like to just sort of finish it up and get it out. We have this like total mind-blowing activity which shows how much shedding can happen. You use a kind of a high shed day glow garment and a UV flashlight, and it is really mind-blowing. It's very inexpensive and easy, and it really shows. And we have some actions that people can take to balance out what they've just witnessed, this kind of wash in cold water, don't do your laundry every single time you touch a piece of clothing, which is a relevant message to younger people as well. And maybe one that moms and dads and whoever is in charge of the laundry might appreciate as well. Good for the environment, good for your home, and wallet. So yeah, so those are some things I'm excited about. And can I just say, I forgot to mention something that I put in the links, and sorry, I did the links once and forgot that Zoom jumbles everything. So I did a second one that'll be easier for people to cut and paste. If you haven't heard of the Grosvenor Teacher Fellow Program, it's a joint program between National Geographic and Lindblad Expeditions. I only learned about it since being a visiting scientist, but you apply. It's for teachers, informal or formal educators. You just need to be full-time, I think, but check. And you get to go to National Geographic's base camp to meet with other amazing teachers from all over the US. And then you get assigned to a Lindblad expedition to experience this insane, amazing, often in a remote place experience. There were 3 Grosvenor Teacher Fellows on my Arctic trip, and they were amazing. It was like Arizona, Texas, and Brooklyn. They're from, they taught everything from science to psychology. And so you don't have to be in science necessarily. And I just encourage people to look that up. It's an extraordinary experience, and one that can, something that Kier mentioned is about going through open doors. And sometimes you got to push them a little bit before they open. And it would be worth giving this one a push. So yeah.
We'll spread the word. And we'll spread the word there. We'll put it on the tackle box this year. And that's a reminder to you guys, the links here are great. And I'm going to put them on the Whova as well, so you have access after, but they will then be published next week online for easier access as well. So you guys are getting a little sneak peek from these guys, from our speakers. But you two are up to some absolutely amazing, meaningful, like inspiring work. And I hope that you continue to just change lives and touch students. And I am so grateful that the 2 of you have been able to be here. I feel bad making this a one-way Q&A. Did you have anything you wanted to ask the audience or Nina or myself before we log off? I've been drilling questions at you. You've been talking so much about what you're up to. I wanted to make sure that you had a space for that too.
The only thing I would say is more of an invitation to everyone is we bring people on board American Promise as volunteers. We have a 18-year-old age, low end age requirement. And other than that, we don't have an upper end. I think we've got 72 years old right now is our top. So what I said about interdisciplinarity and multisensory, we also like having people on board from all different academic, professional, geographic, and age backgrounds as well. We try to have sort of every decade, 20s through 60s at least, if we can. And our expeditions go out for somewhere between, you could join us for 5 to 14 days-ish in the Gulf of Maine. So please go to Rozalia Project and have a look at the Join Us page. We have expeditions that focus sometimes on education, but sometimes they're focused on remote island cleanup with a few community events and things. But the experience is an awesome one. And we would love people who are participating in amazing programs like this to be part of it. And also to say, Hannah, back at you. You and Nina, the work you guys are doing to support teachers is huge and so important. And to be able to, inviting people like us to share our work, it's also just a whole lot of good swirling around. So thank you.
Hopefully that snowball will keep building, right, Kier?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Please reach out, anybody. We'd love to have you on board in some capacity. Happy to answer questions, connect you with some resources. This is great. I'm excited to look up the Grosvenor Teacher Fellows. That sounds like a fun thing to do. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
And we would love to be a launch vessel. If you ever need a Maine-based launch vessel.
Yeah, I know where to find you.
Yeah,
Literally.
you know where we live.
Yeah, I do.
Awesome. All right, crew. So I'm going to leave Zoom up in case anyone needs to stay on to talk to me about tech support or Saturday details, but you're free to go. Thank you both so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Hannah and Nina, for all your work.